The movie begins with U.S. Marshal Madeline, who apprehends Winston in a remote part of Alaska. Winston is a government eyewitness. Madeline says to Winston, "You must testify against your former employer, the Moretti crime family." Winston says to Madeline, "I will testify, but you have to promise me full protection." Madeline says to him, "You'll have whatever you ask for." Madeline boards a small private plane to take Winston to Anchorage, from where they will depart for New York. The plane is being piloted by Daryl. Madeline sees blood on Daryl's neck and becomes suspicious of him. Winston sees a pilot's license under the pilot's seat and uses his foot to straighten it. Winston is surprised to see the pilot's license because it has a picture of someone else on it. Winston tries to tell Madeline, but she's wearing a headset and can't hear him, so he tears a button off his shirt with his teeth and throws it at her. Madeline asks Winston what happened. He tries to explain with gestures, but she doesn't understand. Daryl gives Winston a bag to breathe into. Just then, Madeline notices blood stains on his shirt, and her suspicion grows. Madeline tells Daryl that she needs to speak to her supervisor on the radio, but he tells her the radio isn't working due to bad weather. Madeline realizes he's a hitman and attacks him. However, Daryl punches her in the face, knocking her unconscious, and then ties her hands. Winston tells Daryl that he hasn't told her anything and offers him $1 million if he lets him go. Just as Daryl is about to kill Madeline, she electrocutes him and knocks him unconscious. Then, Madeline and Winston tie Daryl up in the back of the plane. They find a paper in Daryl's pocket with a photo of the Morettis being captured, a photo of Madeline, and a photo of Winston's mother's house. Winston tells Madeline that his mother is in danger and that they need to do something. Madeline tells him they can't do anything until they reach New York. Later, Daryl wakes up and attacks Madeline, causing the plane to start going down. Madeline electrocutes Daryl, knocking him unconscious, and then takes control of the plane and pulls it back up. Madeline uses her satellite phone to talk to her superior, Caroline, and tells her that Winston is completely safe. She tells her that the pilot was a hitman who attacked them, but she electrocuted him and knocked him unconscious, and now he is locked up in the back of the plane. Caroline tells Madeline that nothing should happen to Winston because he is the Moretti's crime family's only eyewitness. She tells her that she is looking for a pilot who will land them safely. The pilot, Hassan, speaks to Madeline and explains all the buttons and controls of the plane to her. He also tells her about the location and then asks her to put the plane on autopilot. Daryl informs Winston that Madeline had killed her previous government eyewitness, who died in a fire. Upon hearing this, Madeline becomes very angry and beats him up severely. Madeline tells Winston that the witness named Gabriella was in her custody. They had stayed at a motel where she handcuffed her, but a fire broke out in the motel and she fled, leaving Gabriella behind, who then died in the fire. Madeline says to Caroline that they should tell their director, Coleridge, everything. Caroline tells her that she doesn't need to talk to anyone and that they can't trust anyone. She adds that her team is already at the airport and that she needs to land the plane safely at the airport. Madeline became suspicious of Caroline, so she talked to her director, Coleridge, and told him everything about Caroline. He told her not to call Caroline again and to only call him. Meanwhile, Winston told Madeline that Coleridge works for the Moretti's crime family and that he handled his payoffs. Upon hearing this, Madeline was shocked because by telling Coleridge about Caroline, she had put Caroline's life in danger. Madeline immediately calls Caroline and tells her that Coleridge works for the Moretti crime family. Madeline says to her, "I was suspicious of you. That's why I told Coleridge about you. Now your life is in danger. You need to leave your office quickly." Daryl uses a dagger to unlock his hand and stabs Winston in the stomach. He then proceeds to strangle Madeline with the seatbelt. Winston pulls the dagger from his chest and cuts the seatbelt. Then, Madeline picks up a flare gun and shoots Daryl with it. Then, she picks up a cylinder and hits Daryl on the head, knocking him unconscious. Later, Coleridge calls Madeline and tells her that Caroline died in a car accident. Madeline gets very angry at Coleridge and says that she will see him in New York. Madeline prepares to land the plane. Meanwhile, Daryl frees his hand from the handcuffs and tries to crash the plane. Madeline takes out her gun and shoots him. During the landing, Daryl falls out of the plane onto the road below, gets hit by an ambulance, and dies. Madeline successfully lands the plane. She meets with Hassan, during which she becomes suspicious of a police officer who is talking on the phone to someone. The police officer goes inside the ambulance where Winston is. Madeline quickly goes to the ambulance and shoots the police officer. Then she talks to Coleridge on the phone and tells him that you and the Moretti crime family are going to jail for a long time, and the movie ends here.